Good morning and good evening. Baixa Paraguay. Welcome to the second day of the fourth edition of Paraguay Speaks. My name is Viviana Benitez Saiz. I am the Vice President of the Paraguayan Student Association of the University of Melbourne. I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands from where we are all gathered today and pay our respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. Welcome everyone to this webinar about two interesting topics today: diplomatic relations Paraguay-Australia and Australia's forgotten soldiers from Paraguay. This event is now live on the PSA Facebook page, and it is also being recorded for our YouTube channel. And you can also join the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag Paraguay Speaks 2022, hashtag be part of the conversation. This webinar today aims to present two aspects of the historical relation of Paraguay and Australia. One, regarding the diplomatic relation of both countries and how this bilateral relationship helps the agriculture, tourism, and industrial know-how exchanges, among others. And the reason why recently Australia became a preferred study destination for Paraguayan students. And the other one, an inspiring story of Australian heroes who, after calling Paraguay their new home, went to fight for Britain during the First World War and even defending Paraguay during the Chaco War. Without further ado, I would like to introduce the speakers: Mr. Armando Fernandez Galté, Head of Mission of the Embassy of Paraguay in Australia, and Mr. Robert Barnes, writer and former journalist who has served in Australian Army for 23 years. Mr. Chris Portillo will host the webinar, so let us enjoy.
Good morning, good evening for everyone. First of all, I would like to congratulate the Paraguayan Student Association for taking the initiative to organize this discussion, which I consider extremely important to showcase the reality and current affairs of our country. Sincerely appreciated the participation of my dear friend Robert Barnes. About him, I always say that he is an Australian citizen, but a Paraguayan by adoption. Fortunately, but also by chance, Rob ended up living and studying in Paraguay and learned to love our country. Through his research, he has both lied to hidden ties that make up the connection between Paraguay and Australia. This historical connection between the two countries dates back to the 19th century in 1893, when a few hundred Australians, including shepherds, ranchers, among other trades, traveled to Paraguay with the intention of creating a settlement with socialist features. The Paraguayan government ceded the land to them in the middle of the eastern region of our country, and there they founded New Australia. Probably the most prominent figure among the members of this Paraguayan adventure was Mary Gilmore. She was an educator, journalist, and poet, and was later appointed as Lady of the British Empire. For those of you who don't know, she is the woman in the $10 bill, $10 Australian bill, and she lives in Paraguay. Some of those new Australians, the ones who choose Paraguay as their new home, and their descendants became important members of Paraguayan society, contributing to our culture and economy. Many of them were heroes defending our country during wartime. And in this regard, Rob will tell us more about that shortly. Among the outstanding descendants of this colonizing experience I can highlight the anthropologist Leon Cadogan and the cartoonist and writer Robin Wood, both of whom contributed to raising the name of Paraguay high for the world to see. About the diplomatic, relations in that decade, they officially began in 1974. In that decade, a first wave of Paraguayan immigration to Australia took place. The Paraguayan government set up an honorary consulate at that time, which was later promoted to consulate general. Much later, in September of 2011, Paraguay officially opened its embassy in Canberra. Currently, the Australian government deals with the bilateral issues from Buenos Aires, and we hope that at some point, hopefully in the near future, Australia decides to open a diplomatic representation on Paraguayan territory. Actually, we are negotiating agreement between Australia and Paraguay. Currently, the bilateral relations present great opportunities and some challenges for economic exchange and cooperation. Our embassy is actively seeking to overcome the asymmetries that exist between our countries. More specifically, we are working with the Australian government to sign a memorandum of understanding for a work and holiday program visa, which will enable the presence of Paraguayan in Australia to work, study, and do tourism in the country. This will create people-to-people links, know-how exchange, and it will allow Paraguayans to come practice a new language while generating remittances for their families back home. In the future, we are aiming to advance in the discussion and possible negotiation of other agreements to deepen bilateral relations, mainly in the areas of technology transfers, human resources development, the environment, etc. Some between the two countries and others through Mercosur. About Paraguay, there is a great potential for Australian investment. Bilateral trade between our countries has potential in agribusiness, mining, and the production of renewable energies. I should note particularly that the Paraguayan capacity for renewable energy makes green hydrogen production a highly attractive business. In this regard, an extremely important factor to take into account is the abundant, clean, and renewable electricity produced by its two large dams, Itaipu and Yacyretá, which an output of approximately 60,000 gigawatt hour per year. The potential for commercial growth is reflected in occasional exchange that could eventually become continuous supply agreements. The main export from Paraguay to Australia in recent years were mostly oilseed in various forms, including chia, organic sugar, and charcoal, among others. We aim to promote Australian investment in the agro-industrial sector of Paraguay, the export of agriculture products, cooperation in the mining industry, tourist agreement, expanding academic and scientific exchange, and others mutually beneficial matters. In this regard, I'm pleased to mention that in recent days, we have been able to assist an Australian business to import the first full container load out of 9 more to come, bringing Paraguayan chia into the Australian market and valued at more than 600,000 American dollars. It is estimated that the next batch will be beyond the $3 million mark, and this represents an important achievement for our national production. Why investing in Paraguay? In relation to economic matters and investment potential in Paraguay, it must be said that the country offers one of the best investment environment in the region due to its financial advantage and because it is a country with 3 main characteristics, namely, the first one is the economic stability, the tax rate, low tax rate, and low inflation. In December 2020, Standard & Poor's, Moody's, and Fitch rated Paraguay with a stable investment grade. This is a qualification that makes our nation an excellent option to invest. Additionally, it can be noted that Paraguay is a founding member of Mercosur, which comprises a market of more than 200 million inhabitants, making Paraguay an ideal gateway for Australian investment to flow into South America and make use of these economic conditions and geographical advantage. We will now play a short promotional video about showing the beauty of our country has to offer. Okay, we're back. Okay, just a quick note about the Invest in Paraguay Forum that's going to take place next month. Before I let you go, I want to tell you that Paraguay will be hosting an international investment forum called Invest in Paraguay, organized in line with the national government strategy to attract direct investment and business to the country. It is organized by the Ministry of Industry and Commerce through the Investment and Export Network, REDIEX, and the Inter-American Development Bank. It's the most important and far-reaching investment event held in country aimed to businessmen and investors from all continents in general and the Mercosur region in particular. It has the main objective of highlighting the exceptional condition that Paraguay offers to FDI, and it will bring together international investors as well as a broad range of stakeholders from the country and the region, including those who already settled in Paraguayan territory, as well as government authorities. The event will take place in person with a live broadcast via streaming on September 8 and 9, 2022 at the Comebol Convention Center near Asunción, Paraguay. And we will play a short promotional video about it. Well, Chris is trying to find the video.
Excuse me, just to be sure, because the video is not available. Please, can we try it again? The first video we couldn't see, we couldn't watch the first one.
Porque estamos con problemas técnicos, nosotros reproducimos acá, pero nos sale en la pantalla compartida.
We can go on and then we'll try to put the video.
To try it again, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Chris is going to take us a coffee so he can wake up and then he will be ready. Well, lately I would like to mention that Paraguay gives great importance to the training of new leaders, from which academic preparation is essential. For this purpose, Paraguay has implemented the Carlos Antonio Lopez National Scholarship Program, also known as the CAL. Now I will pass the microphone and the camera to Chris so he can tell us more about his experience as a Becal scholarship student. Are you ready?
I'm ready. So hello everyone. I'm gonna try to get the screen sharing to work. Let's go ahead and probably ask Vivi to confirm if she can see the presentation once I maximize the screen.
We can just see the folders, not the presentation.
All right, just 1 second. I'm going to try to restart the screen sharing.
Or you can talk about your own experience with the Becal.
All right, I think it's working now. Can you see it, Vivi?
No yet.
Not yet?
No, unfortunately.
All right, so I guess what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna quickly, because for some reason on my screen it says that I'm sharing the screen with everyone, but I guess it's just not visible. Okay, so I'll just quickly talk about the experience. Hopefully it'll be enough if you guys just see what see my face. So in terms of the experience for a student in Australia, a quick note before I begin, I'll just continue the conversation in English, despite the fact that everybody in the audience is more than likely a Paraguayan student interested in coming here, just so that I can make the information available for everyone once we publish this on YouTube or once we keep this online. So I'm thinking if people are wondering if studying in Australia is hard, the short answer is yes. As you may know, Vivi, as an international student yourself, But one word of encouragement that I want to give to everyone is that are you sharing the presentation now, Vivi?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it would be good if you could go to the next slide. Thank you, Vivi. I appreciate that. Um, the next slide as well. All right. So if you guys were wondering if studying in Australia is hard, well, I did prepare an image to show everyone a short answer. And if we can go to this next slide, that is what studying in Australia looks like. It's not an easy task. There's a lot of reading involved, but there's also a lot of reward implied in it. So I would definitely encourage people to come here and study if they want to do it. If we can go to the next slide. All right, so in all seriousness, it's not as hard as it seems, so you should definitely try it yourself. If you want to study here, you have to know that there will be some prerequisites to enter Australia as a student. Normally what they do is they'll receive your application, and it's more than likely that you will be approved if you have been to an university in Paraguay, as long as you satisfy their requirements. There's different requirements for undergraduates. There's different requirements for postgraduates by coursework, and there's different requirements for postgraduates by research, which we normally know as thesis in Paraguay. Next slide. So how do you apply to study in Australia? To keep it simple, it's you can basically just apply for yourself. There's a lot of information online. You just have to follow the steps outlined on the websites of the universities, but you have to be prepared to read a lot. There's a culture of putting information online at Australian universities. So there's as Paraguayan students, we used to just calling on the phone and having everything answered for us, but it's very different here in Australia. You likely have to do your own research before you find the right course to apply in the university here in Australia. You can also hire an agent. Many agents offer free services to help you with your application for your university, and they have a list of authorized agents. Next slide. So about scholarships, I put this slide here because a lot of people ask me about this, and it's really simple. You just have to type the name of the university that you're interested in Google, and just add scholarships to it, and you'll get a list that looks like this in the next slide. So you'll get it. Most universities will have a list that looks kind of like this, where you'll have the name of the scholarship, which would be any type of scholarship. Here we have an example that's called the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action Scholarship. At the moment, the application is closed, but I just put it here as an example of where you could find funding to study abroad. Next slide. And these scholarships, the places that I would recommend in terms of ranking are the big 8 universities in Australia. They're known as the Group of 8. I've put the names here on the slide. I'm not going to read all of them because we don't have enough time. But just if you can make a screenshot, if you're interested, take a photo, or maybe visit the video once we upload it on Facebook or YouTube. You'll have some really interesting information in each of their websites. And just keep in mind, they're not the only universities in Australia. There's so many other universities, so your options are many. Next slide. And this is where Beccal comes in. In some cases, these scholarships are very competitive, so it's hard to get them. But Beccal makes it sort of makes the bridge between Paraguayan students who may have a hard time competing for universities that are very sort of demanded worldwide. So Beccal does provide a scholarship program that complements. Maybe sometimes you'll get a small scholarship for about $10,000 in one university, and Beccal will often give you the rest of the money or give you more money to help you with your studies. And Becal is available for every Paraguayan or naturalized foreigner with a graduate or postgraduate degree, and also students who are in the second year or third year semester at the university career in Paraguay. Next slide. So I wanted to, and I'm approaching the end of my portion of the talk. I want to keep it brief, but I wanted to take this opportunity to tell Paraguayan students to break the paradigm that their education in Paraguay is not enough. Because this is a thing that when I was applying for scholarships in Paraguay, I would hear it all the time. Mi educación no es suficiente. What I studied in Paraguay is not enough. I will never make it to a university abroad. And that's not true. I think uh, once you get a university degree in Paraguay, your chances to study abroad are actually very high. You can get access to education. You have Becal available. There's heaps of available programs abroad. So keep that in mind. Don't limit yourself. Let universities do that for you. If they'll more than likely approve you. So I'll just skip to the next slide to keep it brief. In terms of Australia, I just put here the cost of living according to the Department of Home Affairs for those students who are interested, just to give you a quick snapshot of what it costs to study here in a year. Home Affairs defines a minimum of $21,000 per year to live here as a cost of living. I put this here because it's important for you to keep in mind the amount of money that you will need in a scholarship to come and study in Australia. It's not a cheap country, so you want to make sure you have the resources to have a decent standard of living. Next slide. Yeah, okay, yeah. There was a plan money emoji. And talking about money, students often come here and they need support. And one thing that all students should keep in mind is that all universities have free student support for legal, welfare, education, gender, sexuality, and employment matters. And this was very helpful for me in when I was studying at the University of Queensland. They gave me free psychologists. They give me free visa advice. They gave me a lot of help and support. And it made my experience much easier because sometimes studying can be a bit tough. So in the next slide, I set up I'm showing some of the services available. For instance, at the University of Melbourne, they have food relief. They provide a little bit of food. They provide psychological services, and they provide international student support. Next slide. You have Student Central at the Australian National University, which is also somewhat doing a similar service. Maybe they have more services, but this is the one that I'm familiar with. And next slide. You also have Shock at the University of Queensland. Their details are there as well. And next slide. And that's it. As I said, I wanted to keep it brief but helpful, and hopefully I generated more questions than answers, so we can answer that at the end of this presentation.